Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Pointy Not Sharp. Today we're taking a look at a Brazilian bayonet. Sorry I don't have my flag with me today. Now this is the Brazilian FAL Type C bayonet, and you might notice it's pretty much identical to the Belgian one, and if you don't have the scabbard, honestly you can't really tell them apart because they are identical. Now these bayonets are made for a whole range of different Brazilian rifles, more than I was expecting actually. So first up, the Brazilian FAL takes these, being the model or M964 family of rifles, because there's a whole plethora of 964 rifles, from like cool tactical operator versions to folding stock paratrooper versions. Yeah, there's a whole bunch. So it's a whole family of rifles. And on top of that, the more modern IMBEL MD series of rifles, which is a FAL in 5.56, also takes these. And both of those rifles are still in service today. So these are slowly being replaced out of service in Brazil by the new IA2s, but very much still in service. And I believe some of their commercial ones you can still buy somewhere. I don't know. Anyway, these bayonets are made by IMBEL. IMBEL is like the main defense contractor who makes weapons in Brazil. IMBEL is an abbreviation for Indústria de Material Bélico do Brasil. I don't speak Portuguese, so in English it's the military material industry of Brazil. And they've been making these since, 1964, so a very long time. And they're potentially still making them today. I don't know, they might have stopped recently. The exact number that was produced is unclear, so I can't find any records of how many rifles or bayonets were ever produced, but the best I can do is say there's about 1.2 million people in the Brazilian armed forces, so the number of these bayonets and rifles is going to be more than 1.2, because they've also got commercial versions, and I'm sure they sell them to other countries and they made replacements, and other times in history maybe they had more in service. I don't know. Anyway, we'll jump into a little bit of history behind Brazil's small arms. So prior to 1964, Brazil was using a whole range of different Mausers. They still had model 1908s, 1908/34s. They had M954s. They had a whole bunch of carbines. There's a lot of different stuff in use, and they all had like standard Mauser style of bayonets. I don't have one to show you today, unfortunately. And in the early 50s, or mid 50s I should say, they were one of the last contracts for FN49 rifles, so they bought 11,000 of those, and they were the first self-loading rifles used by Brazil. They didn't buy any more than that because I assume FN told them they were working on the FAL, and it was very, very close to finishing. I think they got the FN49s like 1954, 1955 off the top of my head, and that's about the same time the FAL was released, so why are you going to buy the old rifles when they've got this brand new one? Anyway, it wasn't until 1964 that they adopted the M964, and I don't know if that's because it took them a while to get contract funding, maybe to set up production in their own country, licensing, I don't know. Maybe they had a long, lengthy trial period, but there was a bit of a gap there. But in 1964, the M964, or FN-FAL, was adopted with this bayonet here. Now, earlier versions of the FAL had a knife style bayonet that, this one here is a socket. It mounts over the muzzle, and you've got a spring catch on the bottom here. It clicks into place. The FAL Type A and FAL Type B were both knives that were traditional bayonets that clipped underneath the barrel. So they waited a little bit, well, not saying they waited, but by the time that they got their hands on the FAL, the Belgians were already up to using the C, and that's what they went with. Now, in 1985, Brazil adopted the IMBEL MD series of rifles, which is pretty much an FAL in 5.56, so pretty cool little rifle, kind of like a FN-FNC kind of thing. And they took these as well. So I should point out that this is made to fit over a rifle with a 22mm STANAG muzzle device. So STANAG is a NATO standardized agreement that everyone will have interchangeable parts, and one of those agreements is a 22mm muzzle ring so that everyone can use interchangeable rifle grenades. It also means that everyone who's part of that agreement also has to use bayonets with a 22mm muzzle ring, or in this case a 22mm socket, to fit over that 22mm muzzle device. So they're still using this bayonet on the MD series of rifles, and it wasn't until 2013 that Brazil introduced their new rifle, the IMBEL IA2, with their new style of bayonet, which is a knife. They're really, really durable, really, really rugged looking. I'm trying to get my hands on a couple at the moment, but I can only find the commercial sort of like knife versions. It's not a pure bayonet, so I'll keep looking for now. So they come with a new bayonet, so these are gradually being replaced and phased out. However, they are still in service, but I can't tell you in what kind of numbers. Now, in the 1980s, there was a commercial run of these as well that came into the States and possibly other places as well. And they're called SAR 48s, or that's the name of the rifle. The bayonet, I assume, is still just called the FAL Type C. I'm not aware of a proper Brazilian name for this bayonet, so I'll stick with the Belgian designation. And they were imported into the States by Springfield Armory Incorporated, but I'm assuming with your change of laws in the early 90s, there was probably a stop put on that, so there's probably a limited number of those that made it into the country. There is a little bit of a difference between the commercials and the militaries, and primarily it's just the frog. So the military ones have this sort of olive green, really, really light color green, where the commercial ones have more of like a jungle green color to them. Now, all that aside, I'll jump into the construction of this bayonet right here. So we've got a flat blade at the top, culminates into a point, and then on the base it's actually rounded with two sharpened points at the end. Not sharpened along the edges, but quite pointy. Then we have our socket with our 4 flash hider holes, whatever you want to call them. And down the bottom we just have our catch. Now with FAL Type Cs, there's generally 2 kinds of catches you come across. This type here with only like a little lip that comes out. I'm pretty sure that's referred to as a Model 1965, and that's the later kind of FAL Type C. The other kind is what's called the Model 1963. And again, guys, if I'm making a mistake here, please correct me, because this got me a little bit confused. Now, the 1963 has a bunch of serrations running down the side, and that's the earlier version. And funnily enough, that's actually what you find on the commercial version. I should probably point out that when I was saying it's only the frog that lets you tell them apart, that's not true. The commercial ones have the earlier style of catch. This one's getting stuck. Usually they don't do this. So if you look inside, we've just got a lug that interacts with the barrel, or a bayonet lug, or some kind of attachment on the rifle. And when you pull that lever on the side down, that just raises and lowers. So that's the construction of the bayonet. The whole thing is made of steel. Now we'll take a quick look at the scabbard. The scabbard itself is made of plastic. I thought it was a drainage hole down the bottom, but it's not. It's a leg strap hole, so you stick a bit of cord down there, tie it to your leg to stop it flapping about when you're running. Then we have a metal throat, and it's designed so that when the bayonet goes in, the handle is facing outwards. Some of the other ones have the handle facing inwards. And then we have this green frog with hilt strap, Model 1910 style of wire hanger, no belt loop, and the stitching on the back here does come in a couple of different patterns, but this is generally what you see. But it's, you get some very minor variations. I don't know what those variations are. So that's the construction of the bayonet. Very cool little thing. I like them. Quite hard to find here in Australia. Probably more common over in the States. You guys are blessed that way. The last thing to talk about is markings. Now, the bayonet itself does not have markings. In fact, many of the FAL Type Cs across different manufacturers often don't have markings on them. so we'll disregard that for markings completely. However, the frogs, on occasion, not always, sometimes do have markings. So sometimes on the fasteners, oh no, this one does. I thought it didn't. I'll take back what I said. Potentially all of them, definitely this one, have this IMBEL marking around the fastener. And that stands for IMBEL SA, which is a Brazilian firm that makes the frogs and all the clips and stuff. They're a big company that make a whole range of different things, apparently, including fasteners for bayonet frogs. And that's one of the key tells that this is indeed a Brazilian bayonet, the fact that it's got a Brazilian company manufacturing the frogs. But that is the only marking you will find on these. I haven't heard of any others, no unit markings or anything like that. So other than that, they are completely sterile. But really cool little bayonet. I really like the FAL Type Cs. They're a lot nicer in real life. I know the camera doesn't do them justice, but they've got a bit of weight to them. They feel very, very solid. Make a fantastic little thrusting weapon. The blade profile kind of reminds me of like a Fairbairn Sykes dagger, other than the it doesn't have the dagger profile running down the blade, but just, yeah, the shape of the blade, I guess. Anyway, guys, that's all I've got to say about the Brazilian FAL Type C. This one isn't mine. Hopefully I'll get my hands on one shortly. If I made any errors, as always, please feel free to comment below and correct me so we can all learn and I stop passing down bad information. Anyway, guys, that's all I've got for you. Thanks for watching.